All right, so the first thing that we're going to be talking about today is independent and dependent variables. You put the recording out, please. All right, so before we get into the relationship between an independent and a dependent variable, let's discuss what an independent and dependent variable is. So a couple of questions for you. What is a variable? Nash. Nope, it's not what my operation is. What is a variable? That is in your journal as well. Morgan.
Like the number X.
Okay, so it is, sometimes it's represented with an X. I'm looking for the more specific of the definition. You are right, it is X. Talon?
A letter that represents an unknown number.
Very good. A letter that represents an unknown number. Good job at watching your word wall. Okay, so can it be an A?
Yes. Yes.
Can it be an M?
Yes.
B?
Yes.
E?
Yes.
R?
Yes.
What does that spell?
Bear.
Amber?
Amber.
Oh my goodness. I need to talk to your English teachers about spelling. Okay, so now my next question is this. We said that it was a letter that represents an unknown number. Could a variable be a box?
Yes. No, it has to be a letter.
Okay, so I've got some yeses and some nos. I've got some no because we said that it had to be a letter. But what else can it be? Remember back when you were wee little bitty and the teacher would say 3 plus question mark equals 5?
Yes.
And you would have to find out what that question mark is, right?
That's a variable.
That question mark is considered to be a variable because the actual definition of a variable is a letter or a symbol that represents an unknown. Okay? So it could be a line, it could be a star, it could be a box, it could be a question mark, it could be an A, it could be a Z, it could be a T, it could be a blank. All of those are considered to be a variable. We do not know what that symbol or letter is representing. Okay, so now that we know what a variable is, or we reviewed what a variable is, let's talk about an independent and dependent variables. So, let's make it real simple. I'm going to give you a statement with the word dependent in it and a statement with the word independent in it. And from that statement, you're going to be able to find out the definition of a dependent and an independent. So, if I were to say, Jake can get dressed independently, what does that mean? Jake.
I can get dressed by myself.
He can get dressed by himself, correct? So, independently means that Jake does not rely on anybody else to get him dressed, right?
No, ma'am.
He relies only on himself to get dressed. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, so an independent variable, does it rely on anything else?
No.
No. It just relies on itself. I don't care what them other people are doing. I'm worried about myself. That's what that variable says. Now, a dependent variable. If I were to say, all of you depend on your parents for food, what does that mean, Jayton?
That you rely on them.
You are relying on them. Although they don't have to put the food in front of you, you rely on them putting groceries in the pantry, whether it's SpaghettiOs or top ramen noodles or gourmet food. You rely on them. You don't have a job. You don't make money. You don't go to the grocery store. You rely on them. So therefore, you are dependent on them. What do you suppose a dependent variable is? Now that we kind of know We know what a variable is. We know what independent. We know what dependent is. Kayla?
A variable that needs something or is relying on.
Very good. So a dependent variable relies on something else, relies on the other variable. An independent variable does not rely on anything else. Okay, so now we have that in our minds. Now let's go to our notes. Let's see, what color do I want?
Orange, blue, green, indigo.
I want to do red. All right, matches my shirt. Okay, so a variable is something that is changed. It is something that is changed, and it is unknown.
We cannot see you.
It varies. It changes. All right. You are going to be, this is going to go hand in hand with what you have done in science class. I know that when you do science, you do independent and dependent variables, correct? Yes, you may not realize that that's what they were, but that's what they are. All right, in scientific experiments, there are two variables. There's one that you control, and then there's one that is the result of your experiment. So, how many of y'all did a science experiment or a science fair? Science fair, that's what I was trying to get at. Okay, so every one of you that did a science fair, you had several variables, things that changed, things that were a result. For example, Maddie did the baseball one. Her variable that she was controlling was the bat. Okay, the thing that she didn't know, the thing that relied on the bat that she was using was the distance that the ball traveled. All right, so let's talk about independent variable. That would be the cause. The cause. The independent variable is the one thing that is changing. On the graph, when you're graphing this, this would be the x-axis, which is along the bottom or the horizontal. So whenever you're looking at a graph that we were talking about, we had our x and our y-axis. Your x-axis is your always going to be your independent. It does not rely on y. So your dependent variable is your effect, the result, what is being measured. So your dependent variable, the effect, is relying on the cause. On the graph, what axis do you think that's going to be?
Y.
The y-axis, which is your vertical. Because remember, Miss Armstrong is vertically challenged. That's the ones that goes up and down. So apparently I am dependent. My height is variable, is a dependent variable. Because it's vertical.
What is it?
All right. Yes. The dependent variable is changed by the independent. So the dependent variable is changed by the independent variable. It's going to be changing with whatever happens to that one. All right, so ultimately, in the gist of everything that we just said, the dependent depends on the independent. Or in even simpler terms, y depends on x. And I do believe that in science class, they might have taught you dry mix. The dependent goes with the y, and the independent goes with the x. Dry mix. You remember that? All right. So we're going to move on to the second part of our notes. But you're going to go ahead and glue this into your journal now.